Hey, Sessie Stuff. I'm Emma,
I'm Blythe.
and we're here to talk to you all things Week 10 in college football. Let's get to it. All right, Blythe, let's talk about that Georgia-Florida game. Georgia came out on top at the end, 34-20. How'd you feel about this one?
I hated this for Florida. Absolutely hated it. They couldn't hold on to their halftime lead, falling to the Bulldogs 34-20 without their quarterback, DJ Lagway. The Bulldogs offense has nearly been unstoppable in the second half, taking a two-possession lead and going up big with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
I think when Lagway went down in the second quarter, that left Florida scrambling. This is
Yeah.
now moving on to their third string quarterback, who is a Yale transfer. So I don't know why we're putting it in an SEC team's hands than the hands of an Ivy League student, but here we were in this game. And when Lagway left the game, they were leading 10-3, and then after that, all things went downhill. Warner stepped in. He managed to keep it close for a little bit. He even tied the game 20-20 in the fourth quarter, but his inexperience showed against this Georgia defense. He went for 7 for 22 with just 66 yards and an interception. So points were hard to come by with Warner, which was really sad because Florida was really in this game for a very, very long time. And if you're Georgia, I think that's a little scary.
Oh, I would think so too. I would not feel comfortable with this. Obviously, if they would have had Lagway, this game would have looked completely different. So would the standing, which would have been even crazier as we move on to some of the other games that happened this weekend. But I hate that for Florida. Hopefully, Lagway comes back and he's healthy the rest of the year. Fingers crossed for them. But that is good momentum for them going forward. And even though they shouldn't be happy with the end of this performance, definitely a lot more improvement for this Florida Gator football team.
Oh, absolutely. And Georgia would have become a another notch in this week's losses of ranked teams. I mean, Penn State, who was ranked number 3, lost. Texas A&M lost. Clemson lost. Ohio State lost. Kansas State lost. Pitt lost. Illinois lost. And 5 of those teams lost to unranked teams.
Yeah.
So if Georgia would have lost here as well, they would have also lost to an unranked team. So it is getting a little wild out there when it comes to who's going to make the playoffs. But looking at Carson Beck, he was 25 of 40, 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. I don't know what's going on with him this year. He has thrown 11 interceptions so far. It's kind of a regression from last year because he was always on fire, but he had Brock Bowers and Lad McConkey, and he doesn't have those people anymore. So it's kind of scary with him, with all these mistakes he makes, with his inability to connect to his receivers during the game, how he's going to move through the playoffs when he's playing these teams in the Big Ten, in the Pac-12, who have been very consistent on offense. I don't know if he's going to be able to go one for one with them if that is what it requires to win the game. So they are definitely a defensive first team, and it's sad to see the regression of Carson Beck this year.
It is, and hopefully he'll get it together moving forward. They obviously have, a tough schedule still to end the rest of the year, and then obviously going into the playoff picture, you gotta be perfect, so hopefully he figures that out.
No, and I mean, with Florida, on the other hand, they're not only missing their top QBs, but they're also lost their top 2 cornerbacks, a receiver, a running back. I mean, they're gonna have to start recruiting from the student section. It's insane. I don't know where they go for here. They are still working to be in bowl contention. They're obviously way out of the playoffs. We'll see what happens with Billy Napier later this year. But for Georgia, they still have, in my opinion, 2 tough games left. That's
Yeah.
going to be that Ole Miss game and the Tennessee game. And you look at what Ole Miss was just able to do this week against Arkansas. Jackson Dart passed for 515 yards and 6 touchdowns. He broke the school's single game total offensive record set by Archie Manning in 1969. So He's ready to play, and they are
Yes.
playing next week at Ole Miss. I know Lane Kiffin didn't get the time slot he wanted at in the night game, but they're playing at 3:30. It'll get dark by the end of the game.
Yes.
But that's what Georgia has to look forward to next, and then immediately after that, go into Tennessee. So I don't know how they're going to move forward from here. They've obviously shown that they can show up when it counts, like they
Yeah.
did against Texas. They were able to pull back after historically being down in that Alabama game and come all the way back. So they've been able to produce when they've needed
Mhm.
it most. And Carson Beck is able to turn it on, but he just hasn't been as solid as he has been in the past. And
Right.
that is very worrisome if you're Georgia, because I understand they have an incredibly strong defense, but you're going to need to balance it out with that offense if you want to make a run at that national championship title.
Yep, this is definitely not the time of the year to be inconsistent if you're a quarterback.
But I do still see them going to the SEC
Yeah.
championship game, making that playoff. I even think they'll win the SEC championship game, get that bye week. But they have shown cracks in their foundation. They're not the Georgia of late. But I don't think any team is really uh, they could any team could lose any week, and that's kind of made this season incredibly interesting the way we've talked about it with we've had more upsets this season, it seems
Yeah.
like, than any other year. And whether that has to do with the 12-team playoff, whether that has to do with the NIL and the transfer portal, it's been making it so fun to watch. You really can't predict these games. You used to be able to go and say, oh, yeah, they'll win that one. They'll win that one. And
Yeah,
it's like, oh, wait, maybe not.
maybe not.
So it's going to be very interesting for Georgia moving forward. And we're going to see if Florida's able to clinch bowl contention.
Guys, thank you so much for watching us week in and week out. Be sure to like and subscribe and enjoy the rest of this wonderful college football season.